Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, the first session looking at The Woman in the Moon by John Lyly. We are rapidly running out of plays by John Lyly. I think this is our 6th of 8, and this is going to be a two-part session looking at this relatively short play, but then most Lyly plays are relatively short, but it makes up for its length by having a ridiculously large cast. We have many bodies here reading many parts as we go into this text in some detail. Precise dating for it is, as ever, slightly difficult. It's probably somewhere around or a little before 1590. There are some people who have a theory that it might come slightly later, but it's somewhere probably around about there. Where it is in relationship to the last play by Lyly we did, or the next two that we have yet to do in terms of dating, is also a little tricksy. So they're all sort of a bit of a mess of plays that we're doing in the order that it is most pragmatic to do them in terms of how many people are available in the room. The text is as it was presented before Her Highness Queen Elizabeth. And shock horror, people, this one's in verse.
Oh.
Yes. Of all the Lyly plays, this one is the only one which makes substantive use of verse. So it may be all very different and strange, or it may be just very similar. We shall see. Reading the text today, we have this wonderful assembly of people. So today, reading Mars. The god Mars is, or the planet Mars, for that matter.
Oh, hello, Dan, actor based in Montpellier, France.
It's going to be a lot of that kind of thing. Reading Mercury and Juno today is...
Hi, Rachel and today is the morning. Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel Nicole, an actor in New Jersey.
Reading Gynophilus today is...
I'm Bryony. I'm an actor based in the East Midlands.
Reading Pandora is...
Aliki Chappell, actor-translator based in the northwest of England.
Reading Iphicles today is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian. I'm in Yorkshire.
And reading Nature and also Soul today is...
Liza Graham, actor, singer, and Renaissance text coach, 2 actors in London.
Reading Discord and Venus today is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott.
Reading Stesias today is...
Alexandra, currently based in the depths of the chat.
Reading Concord and Learchus today is...
Hello, I'm Sarah, based in Germany.
Reading Milos today is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I have just disappeared. It's as has my English.
Well, it's good to be consistent if everything's disappearing. All that will eventually remain is his smile. Reading Prologue, Luna and Joculus is...
Hi, I'm Tamara, and I am just having the time of my life in the chat right now.
Excellent. Reading Jupiter today is...
Hello, I'm Francis Cox, an actor living in Amsterdam, and I have a very suggestive line coming up today, which I hope I'll be able to say with a straight face.
It's all right. I think we got the corpsing out of the way the other day. And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading Saturn very briefly, unless a obvious way of passing on to somebody else appears. But at the moment, I cannot make that happen. So we're going to begin the play with a prologue, as it is a good way to start. If you've got a prologue, it's always best to start with it. So, Tamara, if you could prologue for us, please.
A poet slumbering in the muse's laps hath seen a woman seated in the moon, a point beyond the ancient theoric. And as it was, so he presents his dream. Here in the bounds of fair utopia, where lovely nature being only queen, bestows such workmanship on earthly mould that heavens themselves envy her glorious work. But all in vain, for, malice being spent, they yield themselves to follow nature's doom, and fair Pandora sits in Cynthia's orb. This but the shadow of our author's dream, argues the substance to be near at hand, at whose appearance I most humbly crave that in your forehead she may read content. If many faults escape in her discourse, remember all is but a poet's dream. The first he had in Phoebus' holy bower, but not the last, unless the first displease.
End prologue. So let's just remember this, people. If there's anything you don't like in this this play, it's just a poet's dream. That's all it is. It's just a poet's dream. We've had similar sentiments before from Lyly. It's nice, a little hints at what the plot is, but without going into any great depth. Anything about that leap out at people, for those who've done some Lyly before, or for those who haven't? How did you find that as a prologue? You can tell the week's dragging on, can't you? Suddenly all the hands fly up. Bryony, then Eric, then Helen.
Just a lot of the prologues that I've heard in other things tend to be they can be quite boring and like to the point, even if they're a bit rambly about the point, it's plot stuff, whereas that's quite nice and poetic with lots of nice imagery and stuff.
Eric?
I'm going to say that it's interesting how the prologues seem to be getting shorter and shorter, but I don't know if that's just because of the plays you've been picking or because they are getting shorter.
Yes, it might be certainly earlier plays seem to be having considerably longer prologues. I don't know if that's a genuine trend or just the pattern that we happen to have been reading in. But yeah, it's good question of how much this kind of audience is willing to sit through of a prologue, as opposed to other plays where they might have more willingness to accept incredibly long opening gambits. Helen?
It doesn't seem nearly as not convoluted, but balanced with endless partial repetitions. And there's no mention of the Queen. Where is mention of the Queen? Obligatory.
Cynthia. There is a Cynthia's orb situation. Or maybe I'm.
Yeah, I think that may be part of the synopsis, but the fact that Pandora does, spoilers, end up with Cynthia may be a reference to Elizabeth. Who knows?
Yes. Alan?
I must admit, my recollection is that we tend to get more of the let's butter up the royals in the epilogues rather than the prologues.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's be nice before we make a run for the exit.
Yes. Rearguard action while everybody else gets out. Yeah.
Epilogue is the one who's got the brown trousers on already.
Yeah, the prologue is sort of tending to set the mood or what your expectations might be for this, and this is setting that expectation. It's a dream. It's but a dream. Okay, we'll move on. Let's dive into Act 1. There is only one scene in Act 1, I think, and lots of people flying in and out. We may pause midway through. We may let it have its head and get to the end. Let's see what happens. Act 1. Enter Nature with her two maidens, Concord and Discord.
Nature descends from far above the spheres to frolic here in fair Utopia, where my chief works do flourish in their prime and wanton in their first simplicity. Here I survey the pictured firmament with hurtless flames, in concave of the moon, the liquid substance of the welkin's waste, where moisture's treasury is clouded up, the mutual jointure of all swelling seas, and all the creatures which their waves contain. Lastly, the roundel of this massive earth, from utmost face unto the centre's point, All these and all their endless circumstance here I survey, and glory in myself. But what means discord so to knit the brows with sorrow's cloud eclipsing our delights?
It grieves my heart that still in every work my fellow concord frustrates my desire. When I to perfect up some wondrous deed do bring forth good and bad, or light and dark, pleasant and sad, moving and fixed things, frail and immortal, or like contraries, she with a hand unites them all in one, and so makes void the end of mine attempt.
I tell thee, discord, while you twain attend on nature's train, your work must prove but one, and in yourselves, though you be different, yet in my service must you well agree, for nature works her will from contraries. But see, where our utopian shepherds come.
Enter some utopian shepherds, Stesius, Learchus, Milos, Ethicales, all clad in skins, and they kneel down.
Thou, sovereign queen and author of the world, of all that was or is, or shall be framed, to finish up the heap of thy great gifts, vouchsafe thy simple servant one request.
Stand up, and tell the sum of your desire. The boon were great that nature would not grant. It ever was and shall be still my joy with wholesome gifts to bless my workmanship.
We crave, fair goddess, of thy heavenly hands, to have, as every other creature hath, a sure and certain means amongst ourselves, to propagate the issue of our kind, as it were comfort to our soul estate, so were it ease unto thy working hand. Each fish that swimmeth in the floating sea, each winged fowl that soareth in the air, and every beast that feedeth on the ground, have mates of pleasure to uphold their brood. But thy utopians, poor and simple men, as yet bewail their want of female sex.
Ah, a female you shall have, my lovely swains, like to yourselves, but of a purer mould. Meanwhile, go hence, and tend your tender flocks, and when I send her, see you hold her dear.
Exuent shepherds singing a roundelay in praise of nature. Sadly, we do not have that. They exit.
Now, virgins, put your hands to holy work, that we may frame new wonders to the world.
They draw the curtains from before nature's shop, where stands an image clad and some unclad. They bring forth the clothed image.
When I arrayed this lifeless image thus, it was decreed in my deep providence to make it, such as our utopians crave, a mirror of the earth and heaven's despite.
Ooh, we appear to have briefly lost nature there. Nature has frozen. I don't know if nature is aware that...
I'm here! I love you! I'm here!
Yes.
I'm here! I'm here!
Okay.
That,
go.
That's very odd because I
let's
could
go.
hear you, but I could hear you saying I was frozen, but you couldn't hear me? Okay. Where from?
Go from the top of the speech. When I laid this lifeless image thus. So we have these various images for clothing and etc.
When I arrayed this lifeless image thus, it was decreed in my deep providence to make it such as our utopians crave, a mirror of the earth and heaven's despite. The matter, first when it was void of form, was purest water, earth, and air, and fire. And when I shaped it in a matchless mould, whereof the like was never seen before, it grew to this impression that you see, and wanteth nothing now but life and soul. But life and soul I shall inspire from heaven, so hold it fast, till with my quickening breath I kindle inward seeds of sense and mind. Now fire, be turned to choler, air, to blood, water, to humour purer than itself, and earth, to flesh, more clear than crystal rock. And discord stand aloof, that concord's hands may join the spirit with the flesh in league.
Concord fast embraceth the image.
Now do I feel how life and inward sense imparteth motion unto every limb.
Then let her stand, or move, or walk alone.
The image walks about fearfully.
Herein hath nature gone beyond herself, and heaven will grudge at beauty of the earth when it espies a second sun below.
Now every part performs her functions due, except the tongue, whose strings are yet untied.
Discord, unloose her tongue, to serve her turn. For in distress that must be her defence, and from that root will many mischiefs grow, if once she spot her state of innocence.
And the image speaks.
Hail, heavenly queen, the author of all good, whose will hath wrought in me the fruits of life, and filled me with an understanding soul, to know the difference twixt good and bad.
I make thee for a solace unto men, and see thou follow our commanding will. Now art thou nature's glory and delight, compact of every heavenly excellence. Thou art endowed with Saturn's deep conceit, thy mind as hot as Jupiter's high thoughts, thy stomach lion-like, like Mars's heart, thine eyes bright-beamed like Sol in his array, thy cheeks more fair than our fair Venus' cheeks, thy tongue more eloquent than Mercury's, thy forehead whiter than the silver moon's. Thus have I robbed the planets for thy sake. Besides all this, thou hast proud Juno's arms, Aurora's hands, and lovely Thetis' foot. Use all these well, and nature is thy friend. But use them ill, and nature is thy foe. Now, that thy name may suit thy qualities, I give to thee Pandora for thy name.
Enter here the 7 planets, including myself as Saturn, but also briefly nature will read a line as Sol. So the 7 planets are all going to say a line each, pretty much, I think. What creature have we here? A newfound god, a second man, less perfect than the first?
In this forsooth, but made in haste, to rob us planets of our own.
Is this the saint that steals my Juno's arms?
Mine eyes, then govern thou my daylight car.
My cheeks, then Cupid be at thy command.
My tongue, thou pretty parrot speak a while.
My forehead, then fair Cynthia shine by night.
What foul contempt is this you planets use against the glory of my words and work? It was my will, and that shall stand for law. And she is framed to darken all your prides. Ordained not I your motions and yourselves? And dare you cheek the author of your lives? Were not your lights contrived in nature's shop? But I have means to end what I begun, and make death triumph in your lives' decay, if thus you cross the mead of my deserts. Be sure I will dissolve your harmonic, when once you touch the fixed period. Meanwhile, I leave my worthy workmanship here to obscure the pride of your disdain.
And exit nature. Saturn continues. Then, in revenge of nature and her work, let us conclude to show our empery, and bend our forces gainst this earthly star. Each one in course shall signalize awhile, that she may feel the influence of our beams, and rue that she was formed in our despite. My turn is first, and Saturn will begin. And Saturn ascends.
And I'll begin where Saturn makes an end. And when I end, where Mars shall tyrannize, and after Mars, then Sol shall marshal her, and after Sol, each other in his course. Come, let us go, that Saturn may begin.
I shall instill such melancholy mood as by corrupting of her purest blood shall first with sullen sorrows cloud her brain, and then surround her heart with froward care. She shall be sick with passions of the heart, self-willed and tongue-tied, but fraught with tears. And we're going to pause there, because we've got quite a lot to take in. Quite a lot to take in there. A lot's happened. Nature plagiarizes the planets. Planets not so keen. Not so keen on that. In ways that are tricksy at times. It's this utopia. This utopian dream is interesting. Thoughts from the room. It's quite an opening. There's been some things in the chat going. It's very Bride of Frankenstein in places. Someone was calling out, "It's alive! It's alive!" Thoughts from the room. Who wants to leap in? First impressions of what's going on here. Lyly.
Well, he's combined the ancient Greek story of Pandora with the Adam and Eve story, because the original Pandora is not the first woman. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was confused by that. I was like, didn't technically, I mean, we're using Roman names, so Vulcan made Pandora, I think.
And all the gods gave her gifts. Now, gods, planets, same thing, but...
Yeah, and they didn't give gifts. The gifts were sort of plagiarized by nature of, I'll give you this bit, I'll give you a bit of that. Liza.
Well, first of all, I love this setup. This is a time when astrology was very much in vogue and very much being thought about. And I love that this is a comedy of astronomy and astrology. I can't recall seeing a setup scene quite like this in any other play we've done. And I really love... there may be parallels in some of the mystery plays that illustrate the creation, but it's very bold. I love the creation of the light of the woman from the image. That must have been a lovely moment in the theater. You can see the curtain. Maybe the curtain had some kind of cosmology like this or something drawn on it. You can see the curtain being drawn from before the Discovery Chamber and various images discovered, including an actor frozen in position until they're brought to life. And I don't know. I do love it. And the occultism of this era is a really fascinating subject. I would recommend, the historians can slap me down if they wish, but it's an old work, but a fun one to read is Francis Yates' The Occult Philosophy in the Elizabethan Age, to get a handle on some of the stuff that's being discussed and forming the background of this play.
Other thoughts? Alan, then Eric.
The one bit I've got is a technical one in terms of the staging, because we've got effectively Saturn ascending after the end of his first speech in that sequence, but then answering Jupiter, so presumably to an upper part of the stage or a gallery or something.
That seems to be what's implied, is that the gods, the various planets' gods, are going to be arranged in that sort of fashion throughout. It's giving us opportunity for commentary, perhaps. Who knows? Maybe they'll throw things. What audiences are like, especially what they can get up to. Eric.
I was going to say that it reminds me of the beginning of the play of the weather, where people are something has happened, it's the beginning of whatever, and then somehow people are coming up to complain about something to the lead deity in that play. Also, it reminded me of, I think it was Nature, where Nature just hands man over to the world and goes, yeah, it'll be fine. Nothing can possibly go wrong. And then leaves.
Yes, Absolute Nature by Henry Medwall, which is a very early Tudor text, one of our earliest Tudor texts that we have. And yes, similar echoes there. Other echoes we can throw in as well, but I'll see if anyone throws them at me. Any other thoughts before? I think we should finish the act. We're past the halfway mark. We have got various things are now in motion. We have Pandora has been left. Basically, the gods or the planets have all ascended, and we have the entrance of Gynophilus to Pandora.
Gracious Pandora, nature, thy good friend, hath sent Gynophilus to wait on thee, for honours due that appertains her will, and for the graces of thy lovely self, Gynophilus will serve in humble sort, and is resolved to live and die with thee.
Nature will and do attend on me, but little service have I to command, if I myself might choose my kind of life, nor thou nor any else should stay with me. I find myself unfit for company.
How so, fair mistress, in your flowering youth, when pleasure's joy should sit in every thought?
Avaunt, Sir Sauce, play you the questioner. What's that to thee if I be sick or sad? Either demean thyself in better sort, or get thee hence and serve some other where.
A sour beginning, but no remedy. Nature hath bound me, and I must obey. I see that servants must have merchants' ears to bear the blast and brunt of every wind.
What throbs are these that labour in my breast? What swelling clouds that overcast my brain? I burst unless by tears they turn to rain. I grudge and grieve, but know not well whereat, and rather choose to weep and speak my mind, for fretful sorrow captivates my tongue.
She plays the vixen with everything about her. Enter Stesius, Melos, Learchus, and Iphicles.
See where she sits, in whom we must delight. Beware she sleeps. No noise for waking her.
Asleep? I see how her alluring eyes with open looks do glance on every side.
Oh, eyes more fair than is the morning star.
Nature herself is not so lovely fair.
Let us with reverence kiss her lily hands,
They all kneel to her.
and by deserts in service win her love. Sweet dame, if Stesius may content thine eye, command my neat, my flock, and tender kids, whereof great store do overspread our plains. Grant me, sweet mistress, but to kiss thy hand.
She hits him on the lips.
No, Stesius, no. Learchus is the man. Thou mirror of Dame Nature's cunning work, let me but hold thee by that sacred hand, and I shall make thee our utopian queen, and set a gilded chaplet on thy head, that nymphs and satyrs may admire thy pomp.
She strikes his hand, and he riseth.
These twain and I have fortunes all alike.
Sweet nature's pride, let me but see thy hand, and servant-like shall Melos wait on thee, and bear thy train, as in the glorious heavens Perseus supports his love Andromeda, whose 30 stars, whether they rise or fall, he falls or riseth, hanging at her heels.
She thrusts her hands in her pocket.
Oh, then, to bless the love of Iphicles, whose heart doth hold thee dearer than himself, do but behold me with a loving look, and I will lead thee in one solemn dance, teaching thee tunes and pleasant lays of love.
She winks and frowns.
No kiss? Nor touch? nor friendly look. What churlish influence deprives her mind? For nature said that she was innocent and full fraught with virtuous qualities. But speak, sweet love, thou canst not speak but well.
She is not tongue-tied, that I know by proof.
Speak once, Pandora, to thy loving friends.
Rude knaves, what mean you thus to trouble me?
She spake to you, my masters. I am none of your company.
Alas, she weeping sounds. Gynophilus, oh, help to rear thy mistress from the ground.
This is the very passion of the heart, and melancholy is the ground thereof.
Oh, then to sift that humour from her heart, let us with roundelays delight her ear, for I have heard that music is a mean to calm the rage of melancholy mood.
And they sing. She starteth up and runs away at the end of the song, saying,
What songs, what pipes and fiddling have we here? Will you not suffer me to take my rest?
And she exits.
What shall we do to vanquish her disease? The death of that were life to our desires. But let us go, we must not leave her thus.
And they exit after her. Saturn descendeth on the stage, and we can infer that Saturn says, Saturn hath laid foundation to the rest, whereon to build the ruin of this dame, and spot her innocence with vicious thoughts. My turn is past. And Jupiter is next. End of act. Planet number 2, please. Thoughts, Alan?
I'm just wondering whether there should be an exit line shown for Discord, Concord and Nature at some point, or whether we think they're still on stage.
Nature has got an exit point, and we can probably infer that she takes various trains with her.
And the other one was in Melis's final speech. I think actually it would come across better as what should we do to vanquish her dis-ease? Because it is referring to her being uncomfortable rather than to an illness.
It's down in the modern edit here as disease, so it might be dancing across the two meanings. In that sense, I don't think it's wrong in the sense that it should be split, but it may be thought of in that way. Liza may have thoughts on that.
So many thoughts, which I'll try and keep quick. Saturn is a fascinating planet in astrology of this period. It's the, as far as they know, it's the planet that's furthest away. It's the only one named for a titan and not a god. And we're in this play is what, 1597-ish?
It's printed 1597. It's putatively around 1590.
So we're just on the turn regarding opinion of Saturn. Saturn, people agree, governs melancholy. It's the old world that was thrown down by the gods. It's the planet of limitations, endings, diminishings. And in England, at least from about the medieval era up to now, it's looked on as the worst planet to have in your horoscope. But around this time, late 1590s, some Italian hermeticists start publishing their works in English and coming to England. And and their works are based on the Jewish Kabbalah, but Christianized as it came over to Italy from Byzantium after Byzantium's fall in the 1490s. So in the Kabbalah, Saturn is actually the highest planet before you get to God. So this coincides with a change in the opinion of melancholy, and that ties into you talking about whether it's a disease or simply a feeling, because people, they weren't psychologists, they didn't know about brain chemistry, but people knew that melancholy was a condition that you sometimes couldn't get rid of, and sometimes it was in response to things, but sometimes it could really wreck your life, and people were really baffled as to what caused it. Burton publishes The Anatomy of Melancholy, and people noticed that And about the time that Saturn starts to be seen differently, melancholy starts to be seen differently, and it starts to be seen as a contemplative, philosophical state of mind through which you can possibly comprehend, you can bring your comprehension closer to God, with Saturn as a high principle rather than a low one. So here we see, of course, Saturn being the bad guy and making the poor girl no fun to the sexy shepherds. Interesting to see where that leads us.
Yes, we've got a lot of business going on here. She plays the vixen, so not being in a terribly good mood. Broadly speaking, she winks and frowns, so she's closing her eyes because they say just look on us. All of these appeals for her to do various actions, she rebuffs soundly, and these shepherds ignore her. Going back to that Frankenstein thing, it does have that sort of thing of someone who's just been thrown into the world and suddenly expected to react to these people's doing things. It's reaction of it seems that elements of just overload of just no, leave me alone. I need to figure out what the hell I am. Maybe, I don't know. I'm spitballing here. Alexandra.
Yeah, it feels as though she is expected to fulfill her function. And it's somehow weird and unnatural that she dares to have opinions and not want to be, playing to the tune of whatever they ask her to do. The shepherds, what I'm seeing is that scene feels quite creepy in what they are just demanding, that she give them attention and that she be nice to them just because she exists and they're the ones who asked for her to exist, which links into what happened a little earlier where the gods or the planets were made aware of her existence and went, oh, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. I know, let's take revenge on her, the creation, as opposed to nature for stealing all that stuff from us. So it feels to me as though this poor girl has been given a very rough deal. That was all I wanted to point out.
Yeah, the revenge on nature is being inflicted on Pandora. I think it's a really good point.
Yeah.
Was there more? Sorry,
just that the way in which even the stage directions portray her as having somehow a willful negativity. I'm finding it quite strange because in a modern context, we tend to think of it in the way as we just discussed, with someone like the Bride of Frankenstein, or just the idea of her being placed into a position where she has no agency and daring to attempt to have it. We don't see that as a negative trait, but of course in the context of the play it is seen as such, and that's bothering me.
And it's a question of how much of this behaviour is her own and how much of this is the influence of Saturn. He's pointing his magic beam on her so that she is reacting in a certain kind of way. So there's a whole sense that she's spending, or probably going to spend a lot of this play as a puppet for various opposing forces. Which is an interesting setup. The question is ever, especially with Lyly, is how is he going to resolve this setup? What is he going to do with it? Dan?
Oh, sorry. Actually, I'll just comment quickly on, just because there's been a couple of comments on the stage directions. I find this a very, not curious play, but this is really specific in its stage directions. It leads me to believe, once again, talking about the printer, it's James Roberts, who's printed a number of texts that have been questioned about whether they're pirated or whatnot. But one thing that I tend to believe is that he might have, at least I'm going in this direction, that for whatever reason he seems to have had access to manuscripts that were used for performance or written by the author. And I think this one is specifically, especially because of the fact that it is really specific about how characters are acting, how they are feeling in the directions. That does not seem like something that somebody would note unless it was in the manuscript itself. They wouldn't be sitting there watching how it is and write this down. Oh, she winks and frowns. She thrusts her hands in her butt. No, it's a little too much. Yeah. This is not to say this is how it needs to be played, but this is how Lyly was envisioning it, it seems.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Lily's stage direction, they do seem to be coming directly from the author, and there are various thoughts on that we could expand upon in a future context. What the play also has is an absence of, as we go on further, there are also absences of stage directions of some entrances and exits. This act is actually very good on the whole. We've got all the important entrance and exit points. It will get a little untidier as we go. But that doesn't mean we don't get some very good authorial indications of what might be intended. Any additional thoughts before we dive into Act 2, Eric?
I put this in the chat, but I really wish that the shepherds are off key. Just like, yes, let us impress her with our songs, and then just sort of like, yes, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Rachel.
No, I was gonna say about how some entrances and exits aren't noted. Like, because this I don't know, because so many plays that we've done have had some entrances and exits specified, and others they haven't. I wonder if maybe that lack of it in the written text, when they choose to omit somebody entering or exiting, if it denotes that they're entering or exiting from some other direction, or if they're, just coming out of some place that we wouldn't traditionally think of.
Yeah, we don't have this text doesn't seem to be giving us indications of direction. Apart from the occasional descends or ascends lines. But we do have plenty of plays that do give us much clearer ideas of the layout of the space and where entrances and exits may live. But there are a lot of questions in play for this as it stands. I think was that sort of cover that point. Other thoughts? Otherwise, we'll go into Act 2. I think we need to get a little more data as to what's going on here. Let's get a greater sense of where the narrative is going. Excellent. So we're going to go into Act 2. There is only one scene for Act 2. We have initially the entrance of Jupiter.
Ah, Jove, principium sunt e Jovis omnia plena. Now Jupiter shall rule Pandora's thoughts and fill her with ambition and disdain. I will enforce my influence to the worst, lest other planets blame my regiment.
And enter Pandora and Gynophilus.
Though rancor now be rooted from my heart, I feel it burdened in another sort. By day I think of nothing but of rule. By night my dreams are all of empery. Mine ears delight to hear of sovereignty. My tongue desires to speak of princely sway. My eye would every object were a crown.
Danae was fair, and Leda pleased me well. Lovely Callisto set my heart on fire, and in mine eye Europa was a gem. But in the beauty of this paragon, Dame Nature far hath gone beyond herself, and in this one are all my loves contained. And come what can come, Jupiter shall prove if fair Pandora will accept his love. But first I must discuss this heavenly cloud that hides me from the sight of mortal eyes. Behold, Pandora, where thy lover sits, high Jove himself, who ravished with thy blaze, receives more influence than he powers on thee, and humbly sues for succour at thy hands.
Why, what art thou? More than utopian swains?
The king of gods, one of the immortal race, and he that with a beck controls the heavens.
Why then Pandora doth exceed the heavens, who neither fears nor loveth Jupiter.
Thy beauty will excuse whate'er thou say, and in thy looks thy words are privileged. But if Pandora did conceive those gifts that Jove can give, she would esteem his love. For I can make thee empress of the world and seat thee in the glorious firmament.
The words of empress and of firmament more please mine ears than Jupiter mine eyes. Yet if thy love be like to thy protest, give me thy golden scepter in my hand, but not as purchase of my precious love, for that is more than heaven itself is worth.
There, hold the scepter of eternal Jove, but let not majesty increase thy pride.
What lack I now but an imperial throne and Ariadne's starlight diadem?
Enter Juno.
False perjured Jupiter, and full of guile, are these the fruits of thy new governments? Is Juno's beauty in thy wedlock vow, and all my kindness trodden under foot? Was't not enough to fancy such a troll, but thou must yield thy scepter to her hand? I thought that Ganymede had weaned thy heart from the lawless lust of any woman's love, but well I see that every time thou stray'st, thy lust but looks for strumpet stars below.
Why, no, Pandora scorns both Jove and thee, and there she lays his scepter on the ground.
Please thou with me to our celestial court, where gods, fond Jupiter, shall see thy shame, and laugh at love for tainting majesty, and when you please you will repair to us. But as for thee, thou shameless counterfeit, thy pride shall quickly loose her painted plums, and feel the heavy weight of Juno's wrath.
And exit Juno.
Let Juno fret, and move the powers of heaven, yet in herself Pandora stands secure. Am I not nature's darling, and her pride? Hath she not spent her treasure all on me?
Yet be thou wise, I counsel thee for love, and fear displeasure at a goddess' hand.
I tell thee, Jupiter, Pandora's worth is far exceeding all your goddesses, and since in her thou dost obscure my praise, here, to be short, I do abjure thy love.
I may not blame thee, for my beings are cause of all this insolence and proud disdain. But to prevent a second raging storm, if jealous Juno should by chance return, here ends my love. Pandora, now farewell.
And exit Jupiter.
And art thou clouded up? Fair as thou list, Pandora's heart shall never stoop to Jove. Anopheles, base vassal as thou art, how haps when Juno was in presence here, thou didst not honour me with kneel and crouch and lay thy hands under my precious foot to make her know the height of my desert?
And he pours down a number of curtsies as he bows a lot.
Base peasant, humbly watch my stately looks and yield applause to every word I speak, or from my service I'll discard thee quite.
Fair and dread sovereign, lady of the world, even then when jealous Juno was in place, as I beheld the glory of thy face, my feeble eyes admiring majesty, did sink into my heart such holy fear, that very fear, amazing every sense, withheld my tongue from saying what I would, and freezed my joints from bowing when they should.
Ay, now, Gynophilus, thou pleasest me. These words and curtsies prove thee dutiful.
And enter the shepherds, Stesius, Learchus, Melos, and Iphicles.
Now, Stesius, speak.
Learchus, plead for love.
Now, Cyprian queen, guider of loving thoughts, help Iphicles.
Melos must speed or die.
Whither now, my masters, in such post-haste? Her excellence is not at leisure now.
Oh, sweet Gynophilus, further our attempts.
and we shall make thee rich with our rewards.
Stay here until I know her further pleasure. Stesius and his fellows humbly crave access to your excellence.
Aye, now thou fittest my humour. Let them come.
Come on, masters.
Tell on, my dear, when comes that happy hour whereon my love shall guerdon my desire?
How long shall sorrow's winter pinch my heart, and lukewarm hopes be chilled with freezing fear, before my suit obtain thy sweet consent?
How long shall death, encroaching by delays, abridge the course of my decaying life, before Pandora love poor Iphicles?
How long shall cares cut off my flowering prime before the harvest of my love be in?
Oh, speak, sweet love.
Some gentle words, sweet love.
Oh, let thy tongue first salve Learchus's wound, that first was made with those immortal eyes.
The only promise of thy future love will drown the secret heaps of my despair in endless ocean of expected joys.
Although my breast never yet harboured love, yet should my bounty free your servitude, if love might well consort our majesty, and not debase our matchless dignity.
Sweet honey words, but sauced with bitter gall.
They draw me on, and yet they put me back.
They hold me up, and yet they let me fall.
They give me life, and yet they let me die.
But as thou wilt, so give me, sweet or sour, for in thy pleasure must be my content.
Whether thou draw me on or put me back, I must admire thy beauty's wilderness.
And as thou wilt, so let me stand or fall. Love hath decreed thy word must govern me.
And as thou wilt, so let me live or die, in life or death. I must obey thy will.
I please myself in your humility, yet will I make some trial of your faith before I stoop to favour your complaints. For wot ye well, Pandora knows her worth. He that will purchase things of greatest prize must conquer by his deeds and not by words. Go then all four and slay the savage boar, which reaving up and down with ceaseless rage destroys the fruit of our utopian fields. And he that first presents me with his head shall wear my glove in favour of the deed.
We go, Pandora.
Nay, we run.
We fly.
Thus must Pandora exercise these swains, commanding them to dangerous exploits, and were they kings, my beauty should command. Sir Agadophilus, bear up my train.
And exeunt Pandora and Grenophilus. We'll briefly pause there. So the shepherds have been sent to wrangle a boar, a savage boar, and yes, Jupiter's in the seat, making Pandora sort of ambitious, and affecting her, and also. Yeah, all sorts of things. Thoughts from the room? We're midway through the act. Bryony.
It's a couple of technical things that I spotted there. There's one of my lines that was sort of it might need a bit of a stage direction, because like one half of it is talking to the shepherds, and then the other half is I'm back talking to Pandora, telling her what they've just said. So obviously they're far enough away that I'm having to relay the message, but it's just written as one line. So I don't know if you need a little something there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The stay here one. That was all I wrote down. And the other thing is on the little, the longer bit that I had there, the punctuation's a bit of a mess. And I've noticed that it's a little bit on the others as well, where they're just a full stop at the end of every line, even when it isn't supposed to be.
Yeah, general note is that the punctuation is often a mess. That's you just ignore it, and make your own best guess. Any specific things? Whack it into the chat so that we can dissect it at our leisure anon. But yes, lovely points, Aliki.
It's really hard to not read all of her interactions with male figures in kind of contemporary feminist terms. Like, if you've ever been on a dating website, as I have, you are inundated by horny males going, "Oh, please, I adore you. The second I saw you, I thought," you're just like, "Oh, just shut up and go away. You're all so tedious." And I guess that's, I don't know, it's hard not to read it in those terms. Whether you see it as she has every right to think herself worth more than this, or, oh, there she is, the hoity-toity woman who thinks she's better than us. Either way, I'm trying to keep my head in the early modern, but it goes rocketing right back to the 21st century every time they open their mouths and say one of these typical idiotic man things.
Well, I mean, ultimately, we're looking at the how this text is going to intersect with us today. So that's not. It's absolutely part of the process of saying, well, what are we getting out of this, as well as what they would have as well. Sarah, then Liza, then Helen, then Rachel, I think.
I think that's the joy of Lyly, though. Like, just picking up on what Aliki just said. I mean, I wasn't here for the Sappho play, but I think I've been here for all his others. And one of the things I really enjoy about him is the fact that he there are parts of it, at least, that are really easy to translate into 21st century idioms. It just comes at you straight off the page, and it's really good fun. So whether you choose to actually go with that, or whether you choose to keep it in its early modern original kind of setting, is, well, down to the director. But I love the fact that you can do both with it, and possibly swap back and forth as well, depending on the play. I mean, I think this is the fourth play of his I've done, and there's always so much ambiguity about what he's doing. It could be that we're supposed to see Pandora as a, hoity-toity, uppish woman, just because in this moment she's being ruled by Jupiter, and that's unnatural for a woman. But it could be that actually, I don't know. You don't know what Lily's intention is, but he's ambiguous enough that it is really, really open, and that's kind of what I love about him.
Yes. Lies. Who did I say next? Sorry, I've lost the pictures all moved round, and I don't know who was next. I think it was Liza. Was it Liza? I don't know. I know Helen, and then it's Rachel.
Yeah. Well, I just thought this was very interesting. Jupiter, largest, brightest planet in the sky, and linked with the king of the gods, so Jupiter makes her imperious and ambitious. And it backfires on him, because Jupiter, mythologically, is also notoriously lecherous, but she now believes herself to be too good for him. And it is really interesting to think of this being played possibly before Queen Elizabeth, who was a woman, who was a queen, and who was, at this point, receiving a lot of offers of marriage from some very prominent people, and spurning all of them. So you get the sort of knockabout sex buffoonery of the chief of the gods frustrated, which I quite love. But it's also kind of politically audacious, don't you think?
Helen?
Yeah, following on from that, because this was rather the point that I'm going to make. I think when you're talking about a woman who believes herself to be imperial, you've got to watch that you're not actually appearing to mock or imitate the Queen's normal state. So you don't want her, if you're putting it on in front of her, you don't want two queens to be staring at each other across across the footlights, because it could be very easily taken as an insult. So I think when this was put on at court, it would have to be made very clear that this was not intended as some sort of mockery.
Rachel.
I was gonna say Jupiter as a planet in astrology is supposed to represent expansion, and I think that Jupiter courting Pandora is kind of a him being an expansive planet, and the audience that this was being performed in front of would have known that he's not just trying to expand his mistresses, but he might literally be trying to expand her by getting her pregnant. And then also Pandora says a line, "If love might well consort our majesty," might be a line from the actor aimed towards Elizabeth, and this might be a sort of a little push from the playwright saying maybe get married and have an heir for us or something like that. Take one of your suitors. You're the center of attention right now.
Excellent. I'm afraid I do need to move us forward. Very briefly, Francis, but then we do need to go on.
I just have a quick question arising from what Helen said about this play being performed in front of the Queen and the actors having to tread a fine line. Before a play was performed before the Queen, would one of her courtiers or one of her ministers have actually read the play beforehand to check that it was suitable for the royal personage?
Anyone want to field that, Dan?
Master of the Revels.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Though there is an interesting paradox. Sometimes when it comes to performing before the Queen, you can get away with direct criticism of the Queen and the way it works within the way households function. The problem becomes is if you then later send it out in the real world, like a printing here. I'm afraid I do need to move us on. I forget always that when we have a bigger room, everything takes longer because people have things to say. I'm very sorry. Hold on to your thoughts, or we'll try and squeeze them in later. We're midway through Act 2, and now we have some re-entrance of some planets. Maybe they were here all the time, maybe they're descending, maybe they're entering. We definitely have a stage direction of Enter Mars.
Greeted by the Queen of Heaven to summon Jove from this his regiment. Such jealous humour croweth in her brain, that she is mad till he return from hence. Now, sovereign Jove, king of immortal kings, thy lovely Juno long hath looked for thee, until thou come thinks every hour a year.
And Jove will go the sooner to assuage her frantic, idle, and suspicious thoughts. For well I know Pandora troubles her, nor will she calm the tempest of her mind, till with a whirlwind of outrageous words she beat mine ears and weep cursed heart away.
And Jupiter descends possibly with Ganymede.
Yet will I go, for words are but a blast, and sunshine will ensue when storms are past.
And Jupiter exits with Ganymede, leaving Mars.
Now bloody Mars begins to play his part. I'll work such war within Pandora's breast, somehow more for Juno's fair request, that after all her churlishness and pride, she shall become a vixen martialist.
Enter the 4 shepherds with the boar's head.
Here let us stay till fair Pandora come, and then shall Theseus have his due reward.
And why not Iphicles as well as you?
The prize is mine. My sword cut off his head.
But first my spear did wound him to the death.
He fell not down till I had gored his side.
Content you all. Learchus did the deed, and I will make it good whoe'er says nay.
Milos will die before he loses right.
Nay, then 'tis time to snatch. The head is mine.
Lay down, or I shall lay thee on the earth.
And they fight, at which point enter Pandora and Gynephilus.
Ay, so fair and far off, for fear of hurt. See how the cowards counterfeit a fray. Strike home, you dastard swain, strike home, I say. Fight you in jest? Let me bestir me then, and see if I can cudgel ye all four.
And she snatcheth the spear out of Stasis' hand and lays about her.
What? Is my mistress mankind on the sudden?
Alas! Oh, why strikes Pandora her best friends?
My friends? Base peasants, my friends would fight like men. Avaunt, or I shall lay you all for dead.
And everybody exits apart from Stasis.
See, cruel fair, how thou hast wronged thy friend.
He showeth his shirt all bloody.
To spill his blood that kept it but for thee. There's my dessert. And here is my reward.
Pointing first to the head on the ground and then to his wound.
I dare not say of an ingrateful mind, but if Pandora had been well advised, this dare I say, that Theseus had been spared.
Begone, I say, before I strike again.
Oh, stay, sweet mistress, and be satisfied.
Base vassal, how darest thou presume to speak? Wilt thou encounter any deed of mine?
And she beats him.
How long have you been made a counsellor?
Exit Gynephilus running away.
Here, strike thy fill, make lavish of my life, that in my death my love may find relief. Lance up my side, that when my heart leaps out, thou mayst behold how it is scorched with love, and every way cross-wounded with desire. There shalt thou read my passions deep engraven, and in the midst only Pandora's name.
What tell'st thou me of love, and fancy's fire? Fire of debate is kindled in my heart. And were it not that thou art all unarmed, be sure I should make trial of thy strength. But now the death of some fierce savage beast in blood shall end my fury's tragedy, for fight I must, or else my gall will burst.
And exit Pandora.
Ah, ruthless heart, harder than adamant, whose ears are deaf against affection's plaints, and eyes are blind when sorrow sheds her tears, neither contented that I live nor die, but fondling as I am, why grieve I thus? Is not Pandora mistress of my life? Yes. Yes, and every act of hers is just. Her hardest words are but a gentle wind. Her greatest wound is but a pleasing harm. Death at her hands is but a second life.
And exits Theseus. Mars now descendeth.
Mars hath enforced Pandora against her kind, to manage arms and quarrel with her friends. Thus I leave her, all incensed with ire. Let's so cool that which I have set on fire.
And exit Mars. So Mars changing the rules of the game again, making Pandora be all fighty. And exiting with that "I will go kill things now" line. So yes, we've got this constant changing of direction that Pandora is going through because of what the planets are doing. Thoughts from the room, relatively brief, because say big room, lots of thoughts. He now says, and then nobody waves. Rachel.
No, just these different stages, these different planets that seem to be instructing Pandora to do different things. Maybe these are different phases of that, Queen Elizabeth has gone through in her life, or that the court has expected of her, that are being reflected here in this play as a bit of a joke. So maybe the expectations they had of her, and it's just a little laugh.
I think this is a joke setup, isn't it? This is a comedy setup of now this person will act this thing, now this actor will act this thing. The context of which it placed in may not make it very funny, but necessarily for us to discuss. But that does seem to be what the part of the point of what's going on here is, that you have a character who's going to be playing a different scene every time, and gets to play 7 different scenes. We've got 7 planets, so we can assume there's going to be another 4 of these directions. Other thoughts? I'm quite content to move forward into the next act, collect more data. I will therefore do that, as I see no one waving. Act 3, Scene 1. There is more than one scene in Act 3. We have the entrance of Sol, and takes his seat.
In looking down upon this baser world, I long have seen and rued Pandora's harms. But as myself in nature am inclined, so shall she now become gentle and kind, abandoning all rancor, pride, and rage, and changing from a lion to a lamb. She shall be loving, liberal, and chaste, discreet and patient, merciful and mild, inspired with poetry and prophecy and virtues appertaining womanhood.
And enter Pandora with servant.
Tell me, Gynophilus, how doth Theseus now? How fares he with his wound? Unhappy me that so unkindly hurt so kind a friend. But Theseus, if thou pardon what is past, I shall reward thy sufferance with love. These eyes that were like 2 malignant stars shall yield their comfort with their sweet aspect, and these my lips that did blaspheme thy love shall speak thee fair and bless thee with a kiss. This is my hand that hurt thy tender side, shall first with herbs recure the wound it made, then plight my faith to thee in recompense. And thou, Gynophilus, I pray thee pardon me that I misdid thee in my witless rage. As time shall yield occasion, be thou sure I will not fail to make thee some amends.
I so content me in this pleasant calm that former storms are utterly forgot.
And enter the 4 shepherds.
We follow still. Is it not me? Yes, it is me. We follow still in hope of grace to come.
Sweet Pandora, deign our humble suits.
Grant me love or wound me to the death.
Stand up. Pandora is no longer proud, but shames at folly of her former deeds. But why stands Theseus like a man dismayed? Draw near, I say, and thou, with all the rest, forgive the rigour of Pandora's hand, and quite forget the faults of my disdain. Now is the time, if you consent, all 4, wherein I'll make amends for old offence. One of you 4 shall be my wedlock mate, and all the rest my well-beloved friends. But vow you here in presence of the gods that when I choose, my choice shall please you all.
Then make I vow by Pallas Shepherd's queen that I, Theseus, will allow Pandora's choice. But if he speed that less deserves than I'll rather die than grudge or make complaint.
I swear the like by all our country gods.
And I by Dian's holy head.
And I by Ceres and her sacred nymphs.
Then love and Hymen bless me in my choice. You all are young, and all are lovely fair, all kind and courteous, and of sweet demean, all right and valiant, all in flowering prime. But since you grant my will his liberty, come, Theseus, take Pandora by the hand, and with my hand I plight my spotless faith.
The word hath almost slain me with delight.
The word with sorrow killeth me outright.
Oh, happy Theseus, but unhappy me.
Come, let us go and weep our wants elsewhere. Theseus has got Pandora from us all.
And exuberant various shepherds.
Their sad depart would make my heart to yearn, were not the joys that I conceive in thee. Go, Gynophilus, without delay, gather me balm and cooling violets, and of our holy herb nicotian, and bring withal pure honey from the hive, that I may here compound a wholesome salve to heal the wound of my unhappy hand.
I go.
Blessed be the hand that made so happy wound, for in my sufferance have I won thy love, and blessed thou that, having tried my faith, hast given admittance to my heart's desire. Now all is well, and all my hurt is whole, and I in paradise of my delight. Come, lovely spouse, let us go walk the woods, where warbling birds record our happiness, and whistling leaves make music to our mirth, and Flora strews her bower to welcome thee.
But first, sweet husband, be thou ruled by me, go make provision for some holy rites, that zeal may prosper our new joined love, and by and by myself will follow thee.
Stay not, my dear, for in thy looks I live.
And exit Stasius.
I feel myself inspired, but what not how, nor what it is, unless some holy power. My heart foretells me many things to come, and I am full of unacquainted skill, yet such as will not issue from my tongue, but like Sibylla's golden prophecies, affecting rather to be clad in verse, a certain badge of great Apollo's gift, than to be spread and soiled in vulgar words. And now to ease the burden of my bulk, like Sibyl, thus Pandora must begin.
And re-enter Stasius.
Come, my Pandora, Theseus stays for thee.
Peace, man, with reverence hear and note my words, for from Pandora speaks the laureate god. Utopia Stasius Phonici soluit amorem, numina celorum dum pia precipiunt, and backwards thus the same, but double sense, precipiunt pia dum celorum numina amorem, soluit Phonici Stasius utopicae.
He, soberly repeating these verses, first forward, then backward, saith,
If solvere amorem signify to love, then means this prophecy good to Stasius. But if it signify to withdraw love, then it is ill. Then it is ill abodement to us both. But speak, Pandora, while the god inspires.
Idalis prior hic pueris est, aquaris alti pulcior hec nymphis et prior aonis, and backwards thus, but still all one in sense, Aonis prior et nymphis hec pulcior alti, aquaris est pueris ie prior idalis.
He, soberly repeating these also, backward and forward, saith,
Forward and back, these also are alike, and sense all one. The pointing only changed. They but import Pandora's praise, and mine.
Even now beginneth my fury to retire, and now with Stasius, hence will I retire.
And they exit, Sol having spread the sort of love bug over everything. We have one more half of a scene to do this session, but we have time for thoughts on this, where we are with this as it is. The ambiguity of what Pandora is saying in Latin there, that it sort of could work in double meanings. Other things that might be going on that people want to comment on. Thoughts in the room. Bryony.
Just Gynophilus, whatever we decided he was called. He's a bit pointless thus far. I hope he gets off his bum and does something soon.
Yeah, he's just sort of there, isn't it? Occasionally for someone for Pandora to chat to, but doesn't seem to have an overt and obvious function. I was thinking when we first started reading him that he was going to be a bit like the bloke from Love's Metamorphosis who keeps saying his own name repeatedly. But after that initial line of dialogue when he did that, then nothing. So he hasn't killed a single tree. So I'm clearly wrong on that front. Liza.
I think Ganophilus is it has to be the company's clown. In any play you have to have something for the clown to do, and with all of this high-flown cosmic astrology stuff, it's kind of nice to have someone who's very earthed and very grounded in both their humor and their perceptions of things. Going, well, this is weird. And someone who also will be able to react to Pandora in every aspect.
Yeah, I mean there is potential for more humour, especially physical humour from him as well. I mean, this isn't a play that so far has not necessarily many jokes, but it has situations that could be played for laughs. I mean, almost every single scene is a slightly different direction, if that's where you want to take the play. Other thoughts, Aliki?
So returning to my modern dating interpretation, if Pandora is a sex machine, and if you only put a sex dispensing machine, and if you only put the right coin in, sex will appear. Obviously, the right coin was a boar's head. It took a while, but it worked its way through the mechanism and triggered the response needed.
Other thoughts? Liza?
I don't know. I think it may have been the symbolic wounding, the dolorous stroke she gave him with the spear, which is also sort of a Cupid-ish stroke. But there's a lot of cosmic significance here as well. Again, I'm here to never stop shutting up about astrology, and the sun is... we have the sun being Apollo, god of poetry. We also have the sun bringing enlightenment. But I like the Latin palindromes in that they're sort of a balanced center of things. And under the sun, all of her humors and passions are balanced. And she's enlightened and she's inspired. This is sort of the balance point of the play and of Pandora, and it's the point where the two lovers come together.
Okay, let's go from this balance point then into our final sequence of the session, Act 3, Scene 2. Sol has had ascendancy in this particular god messing around with mortals game, and so here we have Venus's turn. So, enter Venus.
Phoebus away, thou makest her too precise. I'll have her witty, quick, and amorous. Delight in revels and in banqueting, wanton discourses, music and merry songs.
Bright Cyprian queen, entreat Pandora fair, for though at first Phoebus envied her looks, yet now doth he admire her glorious hue, and swears that neither Daphne in the spring, nor glistering Thetis in her orient robe, nor shamefast morning, girt in silver clouds, are half so lovely as this earthly saint.
And being so fair, my beams shall make her light, for levity is beauty's waiting maid.
Make chastity Pandora's waiting maid, for modest thoughts beseems a woman best.
Away with chastity and modest thoughts. Quo mihi fortuna si non conciliare vestril. Is she not young? Then let her to the world. All those are strumpets that are overchased, defying such as keep their company. 'Tis not the touching of a woman's hand, kissing her lips, hanging about her neck, a speaking look, no, nor a yielding word that men expect. Believe me, Sol, 'tis more, and were Mars here, he would protest as much.
But what is more than this is worse than naught. I dare not stay, lest she infect me too.
And exit Sol.
What, is he gone? Then, Lightfoot Joculus, set me Pandora in a dancing vein.
Yes, a character we didn't know even was on stage. Joculus.
Hi. Fair mother, I will make Pandora blithe, and like a satyr hop upon these plains.
And exit Joculus. And I'm just going to actually ask Joculus, because I don't think I've asked anyone to read Cupid. Joculus, now be Cupid, also, who is also on stage as well. Venus, continue.
Go, Cupid, give her all the golden shafts, and she will take thee for a forester.
I win, and you shall see her straight in love.
And exit Cupid. Venus ascendeth.
Here, Venus, sit, and with thy influence govern Pandora, nature's miracle.
Enter Pandora and Joculus.
Prithee, be quiet. Wherefore should I dance?
Thus dance the satyrs on the even lawns.
Thus, pretty satire, will Pandora dance.
And thus will Cupid make her melody.
And Cupid shoots her. Back to Joculus. I apologise. I've given the person's dialogue that I didn't realise was sequential. Never mind. Carry on tomorrow. It's quite fun.
Were I a man, I could love thee.
I am a maiden. Will you have me?
But Stesius saith you are not.
What then? I care not.
Nor I. Nor I.
Then merely farewell, my maidenhead. These be all the tears I'll shed. Turn about and trip it.
Cupid and Joculus, come, leave her now.
And they exit, leaving Pandora.
The boys are gone, and I will follow them. Will not follow them, they are too young. What honeyed thoughts are in Pandora's brain? Hospitis est tepedo necte recepta sui. I envy her. Why was I not so? And so will I be. Where is Iphicles? Melos? Learchus? Any of the three? I cure the sick, I study poetry, I think of honor and of chastity. No, love is fitter than Pandora's thoughts. Yet not the love of Stesius alone. Learchus is as fair as Stesius, and Melos lovelier than Learchus far. Might I choose, I would have Iphicles, and of them all, Stesius deserves the least. Must I be tied to him? No, I'll be loose as Helen, for I am as fair.
And enter her servant, Granipholus.
Mistress, here be the herbs for my master's wound.
Pretty Granophilos, give me the herbs. Where didst thou gather them, my lovely boy?
Upon Learchus's plain.
I fear me Cupid danced upon the plain. I see his arrowhead upon the leaves.
And I his golden quiver and his bow.
Thou dost dissemble, but I mean good sooth. These herbs have wrought some wondrous effect, and had they this virtue from thy lily hands? Let's see thy hands, my fair Ganophilus.
It may be they had, for I have not washed them this many a day.
Such slender fingers hath Jove's Ganymede. Ganophilus, I am lovesick for thee.
That I were worthy, you should be sick for me.
I languish for thee, therefore be my love.
Better you languish than I be beaten. Pardon me, I dare not love because of my master.
I'll hide thee in a wood and keep thee close.
But what if he come a-hunting that way?
I'll say you are a satyr of the woods.
Then I must have homes.
Aye, so thou shalt. I'll give thee Stesius homes.
Yeah, I'm going to just pause you there, go back over those last two lines again. Horns, 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 horns.
Oh, boy.
We've been here before. I thought I'd gone over these.
Then I must have horns.
So thou shalt. I'll give thee Stesius horns.
Why, he hath none.
Oh, but he may have shortly.
Ye say true, and of that condition I am yours.
Enter Learchus.
I may not speak of love, for I have vowed ne'er to solicit her, but rest content. Therefore only gaze, eyes, to please yourselves, Let not my inward sense know what you see, lest that my fancy dote upon her still. Pandora is divine, but say not so, lest that thy heart hear thee and break in twain. I may not court her. What a hell is this?
Rhinophilus, I'll have a banquet straight. Go thou provide it, and then meet me here.
I will, but by your leave I'll stay a while.
Happy are those that be Pandora's guests.
Then happy is Learchus. He is my guest.
And greater joy do I conceive therein than Tantalum that feasted with the gods.
Mistress, the banquet.
What of the banquet?
You have bid nobody to it.
What's that to you? Go and prepare it.
And in the meantime you will be in love with him. I pray let me stay and bid him prepare the banquet.
Away, you peasant.
Now she begins to love me.
Learchus, had I marked this golden hair, I had not chosen Stesius for my love, but now...
Oh, lovely Pandora, if a shepherd's tears may move thee unto ruth, pity my state. Make me thy love, though Stesius be thy choice, and I, instead of love, will honour thee.
Had he not spoke, I should have courted him. Wilt thou not say Pandora is too light if she take thee instead of Stesius?
Rather I'll die than have but such a thought.
Then, shepherd, such a kiss, this kiss shall be our nuptials.
Oh, this kiss hath made me wealthier than Pan.
Oh, then come again, now be as great as Jove.
Let Stesius never touch these lips again.
None but Learchus. Now, sweet love, be gone, lest Stesius take thee in this amorous vein, but go no further than thy bower, my love. I'll steal from Stesius and meet thee straight.
I will, Pandora, and against thou comest, strew all my bower with flags and water mints.
And exit Learchus.
A husband? What a foolish word is that? Give me a lover. Let the husband go.
Enter Melos and Iphicles.
Iphicles, behold the heavenly nymph.
We may behold her, but she scorns our love.
Are these the shepherds that made love to me?
Yea, and the shepherds that yet love thee still.
Oh, that Pandora would regard my suit.
They look like water nymphs, but speak like men. Thou should be nature in a man's attire, and thou, young Ganymede, minion to Jove.
Then would I make a world and give it to thee.
Then would I leave great Jove to follow thee.
Oh, Melos is loveliest. Melos is my love. Come hither, Melos. I must tell thee news tragical to thee and to thy flocks. Melos, I love thee. Meet me in the vale. I saw him in the wolf's mouth. Melos, fly.
Oh, that so fair a lamb should be devoured. I'll go and rescue him.
Could Iphicles go from thee for a lamb? Oh, wolf, take all my flock, so I have thee. Will me to dive for pearl into the sea, to fetch the feathers of the Arabian bird, the golden apples from the Hesperian wood, the mermaid's glass, Flora's habiliment, so I may have Pandora for my love.
He that would do all this must love me well. Why should he love me and I not him? Wilt thou, for my sake, go into yon grove, and we will sing unto the wild bird's notes, and be as pleasant as the western wind that kisses flowers and wantons with their leaves?
Will I? Oh, that Pandora would.
I will, and therefore or follow Iphicles.
And exeunt. Off they go to have some fun. Enter Stesius and Griniphalus, but unfortunately that's where we have to pause mid-action in this scene of Desire dancing around in various different directions. So Venus is creating all sorts of more confusion as once again we have a play where gods are just making merry with the lives of mortals. Thoughts from the room of this last scene before final thoughts, relatively brief final thoughts today. Alan?
I'm just wondering, we've not got any detail at the top of the play over the company. I've a feeling when we did Lyly before, he was actually mainly involved with boys' companies, or have I misremembered?
No, absolutely, yes.
Which might make some sense of the chunks of Latin that we've had in there and the word games with that, which need extensive footnoting for modern audience who are somewhat less versed in the Latin. And it may explain, I think, some of the games that are being played. You know, if you're dealing with younger players.
Yeah, I mean, by and large, this is almost certainly Children of Paul's play, and therefore effectively the same company or the same kind of company as all of Lyly's plays. So, though the opinions do occasionally slightly vary, but we can be fairly certain on this one. So yes, all performed by children, because that doesn't make this any more confusing or problematic. But maybe takes the edge off. Well, we've got some making out here. I mean, there's quite a few make out moments here. I don't know if it was just the way you said it, but what the hell is this? Did like let's just go. You know, I'm sure it is. That was actually not how the line necessarily was supposed to come across, but it certainly worked. So I was very happy with it. What fresh hell is this? Other thoughts about this running of fancy?
I mean, you know, it's a classic misogynist fantasy, isn't it? In that this whole little sequence of, oh, you're cute and you're cute too, and oh my gosh, never mind him, who needs husbands? It's also rather fun. I mean,
Alexandra.
Yeah, I am noting it as increasingly less misogynistic in that it begins by giving her no power, and then the various planets give her, you know, inclinations, and then she is given the power to do what she wants about those things and not chastised or punished or accused. I'm sure it will come to a reckoning a little later. But just the fact that she is being, that the characters who are on the receiving end of that just kind of continually go, yes, I'll do anything you want. You want me to go kill a boar? Sure, I'll do that. Should we have some fun times? Yes, let's do that. You know, it's everyone is kind of wound around her little finger. Seems to be that the opposite of that kind of portrayal, but I feel as though that is a lead up to it then twisting back to, and this is bad because she is female. So I dread tomorrow.
Yes, well, there's the question. Will Lyly land in that direction? Tamara, then Helen.
Yeah, I was gonna say a similar thing to Alexandra. There is it's she's learning to play the system. It's obviously the patriarchy, but it's a woman who is learning to play that system until a point, because obviously, you know, all the sleeping with everybody, as is implied, is a different thing. But at the same time, hey, it's a woman with lots of lovers. I mean, it's not that misogynistic. I mean, obviously she's going to get punished for it eventually because, hey, patriarchy. But
Well, we don't know that yet. You don't know what the play's going to do.
right expectations.
But yeah, it's a prediction. Let's see whether the play goes there. Helen.
Yes, I mean, the ideal for the Elizabethans was that everybody should be in balance. So she should have a little bit of everything to make up the perfect balanced personality. But what struck me very strongly about this, that reading we don't get, is what a wonderful comic business there could be with Gynophilus, who is getting what all men desire, but he just doesn't trust his luck. And that I think there's a certain amount of chasing around the stage that could have gone on here, with him running from her.
Well, it's that thing of when he's saying, he's told to go and prepare the banquet, and he's going, well, actually, maybe I'll send him because I don't kind of want to leave the room because I don't think this is going to last, is it? And he's. The potential there. I mean, it's when he's sort of being wooed and he's sort of going, with the, his dirty hands, and she's going, such slender, and clearly he's been a working man, so presumably the hands are sort of calloused and rough, and it's just like, there's a lovely down-to-earthness about his response to all of this of going, sorry, what now?
Yes, and he's convinced that it isn't going to work because he says, well, there's your husband. I can hide you from him. Yeah, but he might find me. Yes.
Liza, I think I saw her hand.
Oh, yeah, just following on from Helen's point about how you're supposed to be balanced in the influence of all the planets and your humors are supposed to be balanced. But comedy comes from people acting in extravagant ways. So, what would we be like if only Venus influenced us incredibly strongly for 15 minutes? We've been talking about the question of Pandora's agency because the planets have influence over her. She doesn't have agency regarding the planets, although sometimes she has a bit. She turns down Jupiter. In the mortal sphere, she's getting importuned by these shepherds, but so far it's a question of her will. That, her will is being manipulated to want different things, but I haven't seen anything yet done specifically against her will or what she takes to be her will at that moment. The fact that she's undergoing a planetary roofie is kind of beside the point.
Yeah, I've been thinking in science fiction terms throughout much of this of an android with the source code keeps jumping protocols every 5 minutes, and if that was less willful, then there's an element that was just a thing that was dancing in my brain. I don't know if it means anything at all. Other thoughts from the room? I don't think I say I'm going to go around the whole room with final thoughts, so but now I'll open it to everyone for any final thoughts about the play overall so far. Hopes, dreams, expectations. Bryony.
I just can't wait for the appearance of Sleepy and Doc because they're the only two left now, isn't it? So let's see where it goes. I'm excited.
5 planets down, 2 to go. Yes, other Sarah.
Yeah, I am really enjoying this play. It has all kinds of things in it that have been already elucidated by others who are more articulate, that make me think, oh, this could all go very horribly wrong. But I genuinely don't know what's going to happen. And this is Lyly. So it might not go horribly wrong. It probably will. But for everything that's making me slightly uneasy, there's also something else that I'm really enjoying. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about the ambiguity of his writing. I really, I think there's so much to enjoy here. Yeah, it might take a dark turn. but it might not, or it might take a dark turn, and then at the same time there might be a bit of light as well, which, you know, we quite often get with Lyly. So I'm just going to wait and see what happens, because so far I have to say there is a part of me that is really enjoying this and could see it going in a really satisfying way. And whether it will or not, I don't know yet, but it's just nice to know that, it's nice to think that that could be an option, because it's making me kind of relax into it. You know, I probably won't be at all relaxed tomorrow, but at the moment I'm thinking, yeah, this could actually go quite well, or not. And that's kind of fun.
Well, I mean, the question is whether this play is going to land in a Galatea way, and this will be a Thorple, you know, or however many there's a fivepul of people, and they'll all live happily ever after.
Why not?
I say if it's if we're following a Galatea model, but if we move into more Love's Metamorphosis level, then we probably won't get that kind of neatness of resolution. Dan,
I do think it's important to remember that this is being performed by not only by children's companies but for the court, for the Queen. That Lyly later on got into the gentry, got married in, and was installed in court. I mean, you can say that his plays were essentially installed in court. This, along with Dido, also performed by children, also about a woman who's I guess taking control of her life. I do feel that if this is for the Queen, I imagine that Lyly is wanting to adapt mythological Ovidian themes into something that the Queen would approve of. So either commenting on the subjugation of women by these macho men, and in a satirical manner or in a serious manner. Either way, I think it works, because I don't imagine that she's going to be advocating for misogyny in the end. So whether Lyly is your flavor, I don't know, but I think it is important to know that these are going to be played for the Queen. So I can't imagine it's just advocating for the typical male misogynistic view that was in vogue during this time period.
I think one of the major veins that Lyly gives us is dissatisfaction. You know, deliberate dissatisfaction, giving us endings where that are not very tidy, where people are left in ways that are really uncomfortable, but for effect. As well, that seems, or that's how I'm reading him so far, is that giving us pat closures that work is not necessarily what he's trying to do. So I'm quite curious as to how this will land. I may be exaggerating that point, but we shall see. Other thoughts? Aliki.
Whoever's playing Pandora gets to have an enormous good deal of fun, going wildly from one extreme of emotion to the other, and that's nice.
Sarah, then Alexandra.
I have literally just typed that into the chat. The other thing I was going to say that I forgot to say was that Pandora is such a cracking part. I mean, it depends on how it's going to go, but even if it ends kind of badly, like the joy that a female actor could have with this role in a modern production, playing all those different parts. I know it's because it would have been played by a boy, but even so, there aren't that many early plays where women get to do this. You get plays where men get to kind of adopt lots of different dynamics and play with lots of different characters and change tack, but it's not often you see one for a woman. So I mean, that is another very good reason for actually trying to rehabilitate it for the modern audience.
Alexandra.
Yes, that, but with the caveat that it takes some careful arranging in both the performance and the direction, for this not to thereby fall on the audience's ears as either a flat interpretation or in some way an interpretation of of the only woman with power in this play, possibly the only woman, human woman, abusing that power. Which I think is the risk. There is one way of looking at this that is, she's got everyone wrapped around her little finger, and that's bad. And even if that becomes the conclusion at the end of the play, even if that's the moral, I think it would get very sour very fast if we get that impression from early on.
Well, that's where your agency question comes in, though. That's down to the director.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I think it's interesting. I think it would be a lot of fun to do, but it would also need to be carefully constructed in such a way that that the audience shares in that fun without it feeling unjust to all the other characters.
For sure.
Helen.
I mean, it's something that might help that is if Pandora is actually taking the audience into her confidence about the way she feels. I mean, she has quite a number of speeches about her new feelings. Well, if she's actually communicating them to the audience, then I don't know. I don't know anything about theatre, actually.
Rachel.
No, I was just going to say that even the gods that she's involved with in this, I mean, besides Venus, so many of them are men, and she's predominantly just in this male space. And I'm only saying this because she is this female character in this, and I don't know if there's some parallels between her and Queen Elizabeth, and that she's existing in this very male space and has to balance so many of these, foreign kings or even domestic people that have something to gain from her. And, I don't know if that says something, that she's being empowered or possessed by these major god figures, and then I don't know, that she's involved with all these regular guys. I don't know.
Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, just picking up what Rachel said there. I mean, in an ideal world, for me at least, this play would end with, because, what Liza said earlier is absolutely true. She's kind of being celestially roofied by all these different gods. Well, in an ideal way, this play would end for me by the fact she comes through all that, and then at the end she finds her agency, and we don't get any version of her which is just being, subjected by the whims of some deity. But actually we then discover, picking up on what Helen said of how we hear her thoughts about when she's like this and when she's like that, we actually find out who she is when she just is who she is. And that would be just such a great way to end the play. I'm not actually expecting that to be the end, but the hope is always there.
Right. Any final thoughts from anyone before I close the session? We have got to say the rest of the play to sift through next time. So we have a long way to do. Find out as ever how the text is going to resolve or not resolve the issues that it has raised. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for their wordage today. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Concord frustrates my desires.
Huh?